Yo, what's up guys, the Insane Game Freak here to bring you a video. So, Star Fox Zero has come out, a few days ago, and I figured I'd talk about it and I wouldn't call this a review, it's more of a first impressions. A lot of you are probably screaming in the background, where's the next Pokemon movie review? When's when's that Bravely Second review? When's that Fire Emblem Fates Conquest review? Listen. I'm going out of town this week, so we'll get to it, alright? Damn it. It's a grind. Give me a fucking break, alright? I'm only one man. I got shit to do. I got a job. I ain't got mouths to feed. I got a mouth to feed. Mine. No, let's do an intro starter. Okay, so Star Fox Zero has come out, and we need to talk about it because this is a pretty controversial Wii U game. Also, it's the last big title on the Wii U until Zelda because, Tokyo Mirage Session, Sharp FE, only weeaboos are going to play that shit. Fucking still hate that. So let's talk about Star Fox. Now, just to give some background, I have never played a Star Fox game before. This is my first Star Fox game. This is my first experience playing Star Fox. I've seen Star Fox. I am aware of Star Fox. It's not like I'm like, oh my god, who's the bird? Who's the rabbit? Oh, look at the dog. Hey, there's a cat. Like I got the general lore. So I'm not gonna talk about story stuff because from what everyone else has told you is that it's a pretty much 64 remake. But because I don't know that because I've never played 64. I won't say that, and we'll just take their word for it, because why would they lie about the story? It's not like people play Nintendo games for story anyway. Lord. No, honestly, I think they just kept it safe because it was smart. Considering how divisive this control option is, it kind of doesn't... To me, making anything else overly complicated would be a dangerous situation. Granted, this is not that much better anyway, but still. Second thing, graphics. I'm actually going to be making a lot of Sonic comparisons in this video. So if you're a Sonic fan, you'll probably get a lot of this. The graphics, to me, kind of do the same thing that, like, Sonic Generations graphics do. It's one of those things that it's fine when playing the levels, but if you wanted to be technical about it and break the shit apart, it's like, oh yeah, this is the problem, that's the problem, this is the problem. It works for the kind of game it is, so I'm not really hating on it. If I took a still frame shot of Corneria, like, oh my god, look at those rough textures there, and there, and there. Also, you got to remember this game was originally meant for the Wii, so that's probably part of the reason. But, like, there's a rough texture. And, I get it. The game isn't going to be winning any awards, like, at all. So, I acknowledge that the graphics are pretty rough. But, as I say, they work for the game. Some of the levels do look genuinely good. As far as the whole lack of enemies on screen that we were having issues with when we were first seeing the game, it don't feel that way. It don't feel that way. You would think it would, but it doesn't. It doesn't. It feels like a pretty full and vibrant environment of different enemies running around shooting lasers at you and shit. I never felt like, man, I'm just driving around in this vast nothingness with nothing going around. No, shit's always happening. So the game always keeps up its level of intensity and multiple enemies coming at you. So let's talk about the most divisive thing about the game, and really what the bulk of this video is going to be about, the controls. So, just to give you an understanding of what you essentially have to do, now, first off, people gotta understand, Star Fox, in general, is a pretty complicated game by itself. People like to act like it's not, but it is. Think about it. In most games, especially most Nintendo games, you got to worry about a few buttons. Run, jump, maybe a duck or crawl maneuver, and maybe like a dodge roll. That's about it. Well, in Star Fox Zero, it's not that. It's not only those things, but it's also the shoot button. It's also the buttons for somersaults, the buttons for fucking U-turns, the button to recalibrate the reticle, the fucking, barrel roll, and the fucking... and then braking and boosting, and it's like, the shit gets pretty fucking complicated. My point is that Star Fox was already a complicated game to begin with. So adding on the motion controls and on top of the extra button to switch the gamepad view to the TV and vice versa, that's already two other things I gotta worry about. And if I had to be honest, the game I would relate this the closest to is Sonic Unleashed. That's what it feels like. And to me that's kind of a positive and a negative. It's a game that has the ability to have a great control scheme for future Star Fox games, just like Unleashed had the boost gameplay that is considered to be the better Sonic gameplay, and a gameplay that would inherently work for the series that it is. The problem is that you can easily tell in this game it is not fully realized. And that's kind of the biggest problem of it all. Now, do I think the game is unplayable? No, it's not. I beat the game. It's not unplayable. It's not even inherently, especially if you're someone who's already used to motion controls and gyro controls. A lot of people make the comparison of this and Splatoon. This is not, it has similarities to Splatoon and controls, but it's not the same thing. It's still a learning curve you gotta get used to. Even if you play Splatoon, it's gonna take you a minute. It wasn't like, oh, I played Splatoon. I have like over 100-some hours in Splatoon, and I jumped in this game and got my shit wrecked. So it's not a simple, oh, it's just Splatoon with Star Fox. No, it's not. It's a little bit more complicated than that. Also, the exaggerations of people saying that, oh, you gotta move your arms all over the place just to fire. No, you don't. You have your range of up and down and your range of left and right. It's like a tiny little box in front of you. That's it. That's it. You're not doing all of this. You're not doing all of that. You're not. I mean, if you are doing it, that means you need to recalibrate your fucking, recalibrate your reticle on the gamepad screen. Also, considering you can switch between the screens at any time in the game, people always act like you gotta overly look at the gamepad. No, you don't. Just switch it. Just switch the gamepad view to the TV. So it's not like the controls are so fucking alienating that you can't get used to it. But that's also the fact that it is alienating. And it's one of the things that bothers me about the game. For me personally, I don't have an inherent hatred of the controls. I think they have a learning curve to them. It takes skill to use, but some of the advantages you get is shit that you would totally want to see in future Star Fox games. But they need to fucking fine-tune this control scheme. That's why I say it's like Sonic Unleashed. Because the boost gameplay was not perfected in Unleashed. It was introduced, and you can see the makings of a really great control scheme. It's the same thing with Star Fox. Some of the precision aiming and the dogfights, it's like, dude, some of the Star Fox with this control scheme can be the shit. But the problem is it's not fully realized in this game, and they don't give you any other option. See, Splatoon at least had the common decency to give you somewhat of an option. You couldn't turn motion controls completely off, but you could still use the right stick for left and right movement. Even though personally I would never do this, that is a huge deal for one particular reason. Because it allows people to start where they're comfortable and then branch out when they start seeing shit online. Because most people will tell you, Splatoon players will usually tell you, gyro is better for Splatoon. But for those who wanted to use the right stick, they could start with the right stick and be like, huh, I'm seeing a lot of people use this gyro online and they're getting more kills than me, or they're covering more turf than me. Maybe I'll try out the fucking gyro controls. When you let people have a familiar starting point and then move their way up to something more difficult and interesting at their own pace, you gain fans, and it's more towards Nintendo's philosophy about appealing to everyone. When you force me to use gamepad controls, you're essentially saying either get gamepad or get the fuck out. That's literally what you're telling me. Which isn't a terrible... And look, it's not like I'm telling them not to do gamepad stuff. I have no problem with gamepad stuff. To me, Nintendo trying more gamepad stuff means that they're not stuck into just using the same old conventions. They always want to try to change the game. That's why I always thought it was stupid when people complained about, oh, why don't you just make a Star Fox game or an F-Zero game? It doesn't have to be anything inherently new. Just make an HD version of GX or 64. And I'm sitting there going, and it's funny because if you look at the complaints for Star Fox Zero, some of the complaints is the fact that it's literally just an HD Star Fox 64. So you're full of shit. Don't fucking tell me that you want that when you obviously don't. You want a new game and you want something different. And this is where it gets down to the nitty gritty. Making me use the gamepad controls means you essentially just kind of split your fan base off instead of giving them a barrier of entry. The same thing with Splatoon. I even think the next Splatoon game should have full-on right stick controls instead of the pseudo right stick controls you get in the first game. Why? Not because I want them, but because you get more people to play your game. This is a very non-traditional control scheme on a franchise that we haven't seen in a while, and you force me to use this very unconventional control scheme that has the potential to be great, but is not fully realized in this game. You can tell the fact that I have to consistently hit Y to recalibrate a reticle throughout multiple times throughout a level already shows me that the shit is not perfected. So knowing that, why would you force the player to use these control schemes? Because for me, I don't hate it. I can play the game perfectly fine using the goddamn gyro and the motion controls. But to me, when you force a player to use one control scheme, it kind of goes against what Nintendo's philosophy is, which is to let everyone the chance to play games. That was kind of the Wii's philosophy in general. And even though Nintendo's like the only company that seems to consistently do motion controls right, or at least can do good games with motion controls, even some of their best games are still divisive. Skyward Sword being one of the best examples for it. The motion controls were like, that was the magnum opus of fucking the Wiimote and the Nunchuck, and people are still divisive on that game. So, Star Fox is using a completely different control scheme that obviously isn't fully realized. It's just kind of like, and see, that's what I'm saying. And it has that potential. That's why I keep saying Sonic Unleashed comparisons. It has the potential to be legit as fuck. Some of the precision aiming you can do, some of the some of the fights you can do in this game. And it was one of the reasons why I kept saying, and I do agree with what a lot of people have said, this game could not work if you had given them traditional controls. That's what I find funny as fuck. People are asking for them to patch in an option for traditional controls. And I think that should be patched in. Because you'll find out why you need the gamepad controls. Because this game cannot really be played using just the normal controls. There are certain boss fights and just certain things in general that don't work as well with using traditional controls. So I think the gamepad is needed to play this game. But I think it would have been better if the player realizes that instead of you making the decision for me. Because it makes me feel like you're being my dad about this shit and like, well, you're going to do it this way. Well, let me do it my way and realize that you're right. And then you can have your little self-satisfaction. But then I figure out the way you really should play the game. Because that creates a sense of, and also it's kind of like a positive reinforcement for the player. You know, when I figure out on my own that, this control scheme does have a lot of benefit to it, then I'm a lot more positive towards it instead of what is going to happen now, which is that you got people being inherently negative about the control scheme, but they like the franchise enough to the point where they want to keep trying, and then they're like, oh shit, they did have a point here. But that all depends on the player. That all depends on the gamer giving a fuck enough to keep going, and it's the more risky of the two choices in terms of handling it. So even though I personally don't hate the controls, and I could see the merit, and I could totally see them doing this again, when you forced it on the player, it doesn't work as well. But I totally see why it's there, and I totally see, and I know that it's the better control scheme. It isn't perfected, but it could be so fucking good. And what's gonna suck is this game probably isn't gonna sell well. This game isn't gonna sell well, and I'm like, and I hope to God they're not sitting there in the back going, oh, well, the game didn't sell. It doesn't mean they want Star Fox games, because you know why they didn't want this. You know why this game won't sell well. You know why this game won't sell well, because you made it into you put that game in a position where it really couldn't sell well. Because it was an all or nothing situation. Either people were going to absolutely love the controls, which they were telling you from day one they weren't, or what's currently happening, which is a lot of people hate it. I don't hate the controls. I actually think it's a fine game. It is short. That's the other problem. But then again, Nintendo games at least have the common decency of making the game cheaper. Well, the digital. Well, granted, for this game, it's like the digital version because the main version includes Guard with it. But even Donkey Kong and other games on the Wii U have been like $50. So, or in Kirby the Rainbow Curse, I think it was $40. Which honestly, I feel like this game probably should have been $40 because considering I beat the campaign in 8 hours. But that's also with me dying a lot and also with me doing some of the alternate paths. The game's like short as fuck. It's like Order 1886 levels of short. The advantage is at least you can go back and play alternate paths with this game and you have other things you can do. Also, the amiibo shit you can unlock in the game. So people bitching about the amiibo bullshit, which I feel like that's the least of this game's problems. Just so you know, you can unlock that shit normally. So if you want the Falco R-Wing, or the Falco R-Wing, or the 64 R-Wing, there you go. So, personally for me, I like the game. I think it's fun. It's a game that makes me want to try to get better at it. But then again, I'm the kind of guy who likes Sonic Lost World, which is, to me, the same kind of game. A game that you want, that the more you play, you have the decision at that point to either walk away from it because it's too hard for you, or get better and do some really cool shit. That's how I feel about Star Fox Zero. It's a game that you're going to hit that crossroad and be like, do you want to get good, or is it not worth it to you? And a lot of people are going to say it's not worth it to them, and that is my problem. That's the only reason why I say gamers like positive reinforcement in the stupidest of ways. A control scheme will never hurt you. Adding an optional control scheme will never hurt you because you don't have to use it. The more customization you give to my games, the more people who are willing to try it. That's my problem with Star Fox Zero. It's way too inclusive. It's way too much of a risk. And it's way too much of a Sonic Unleashed game, meaning it's a game that has controls that can be really great if perfected, but I fear they'll walk away from it because of how bad this game is probably going to sell. But I think it's fun. I think it's fun. I like the game. I have fun with it. Because I kind of, and you got to understand, there's two different, I'm going to, once again, Sonic comparison here. It's not like, let's compare like Unleashed / Lost World with like Black Knight and Secret Rings. Black Knight and Secret Rings are gameplay styles in which I would sit there and go, it's not terrible, but I don't really feel the need to do it again. Whereas Unleashed and Lost World are like, these can be really good control schemes. Which is why I'm afraid the Lost World, I'm afraid the next Sonic game probably won't even try Lost World's design in terms of controls. Which is a shame because I think they can be great. Because of probably how bad Lost World sold. Star Fox Zero is more on the line of Lost World and Unleashed. It has the ability to have great fucking controls when they're perfected. And just give them the right analog stick. Give them the non-gamepad options. Because guess what? If you let them do it on their own and them figure it out, they'll do exactly what you want them to do and they'll be happy about it. And you won't get all this negative reception for a game. Because it's obviously you want this game to do well. You did a fucking animated feature for the damn game. I know you want it to do well. So it's a shame. I hope you just learn from this. You give us options. Not for me, but for fucking the Polygon reviewer out there. For the guys like the Polygon reviewer who couldn't play this game the way you wanted it to play. And probably the definitive way you wanted to play the game. Don't do it for the fan who liked the game. Do it for the fan who didn't like the game. This control scheme does not need to die. It just needs to be perfected. And you need to give people the option not to play it that way if they don't want to and to play it traditionally. Because in-game, it will totally help you out in the future. As I said, Splatoon, best tier gyro controllers. You playing with sticks, you a scrub. But you gave people the option to make that decision on their own. So the scrubs will learn that they're scrubs when they're getting wrecked by gyro players. Anyways, that's my thoughts and opinions. So leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below and tell me if you agree or disagree. This has been the Insane Game Freak. Life's a game. Play to win. And I will catch you guys later. Peace out. Oh. Do a barrel roll. Woo!